Imagine, if you will, standing in a silent room after a storm, the kind of silence that hums with the echo of what's been left unsaid. You stand still, but your soul is trembling from everything it had to swallow. Words you couldn't say, pain you couldn't show, tears you wiped before anyone could see. You smiled to hide the shatter. You laughed to drown the ache, but God saw it all. Not one moment slipped past his watchful eye. There are wounds deeper than any blade could cut. Wounds formed by the absence of kindness, the presence of betrayal, the cruelty of silence, the indifference of those we trusted most. When people ignore your cries, overlook your efforts, or pretend not to notice the weight you carry, it can feel like you're invisible to the world. But my friend, take heart. God has not overlooked you. He is the witness to your silence, the collector of your tears, and the defender of the broken heart within you. The world may not know the strength it takes for you to get out of bed some mornings. They may not see the courage in your quiet endurance or the depth of love you gave to those who repaid you with coldness. But God does. He knows the exact moment your heart was betrayed. He knows the second your voice cracked in private. He saw that night you cried out in prayer with no words, only the language of pain. There is a sacredness in your suffering that only heaven can interpret. Your agony is not lost in the wind, your sacrifice is not forgotten, and your heartbreak is not in vain. Have you ever wondered why certain people never apologize, never acknowledge your pain, and move on as if nothing happened? It's not because your feelings didn't matter. It's not because your worth was small. It's because their hearts have grown blind to the consequences of their actions. But God is not blind. He is not deaf. And He is not still. Every tear you shed became a seed planted in the soil of divine justice. And just as a seed is not seen while it prepares to bloom, so too is God's justice, sometimes hidden, until it bursts forth, undeniable in its time. God is a patient observer, but He is not an indifferent one. He is the God who knits together justice in the hidden places. He is the one who avenges in ways no man could imagine, and He does not allow cruelty to go unchallenged forever. They may have gotten away with it in the eyes of the world, but they haven't gotten away with it in the court of heaven. The scales are still being balanced, and when they tip, oh, how they tip with righteous fire. Perhaps you've asked, why didn't God stop them when they hurt me? The answer is not absence, it is timing. God allows certain things to unfold, not because He approves of them, but because He's weaving a testimony out of your trials. He's building strength in the silent places, and when the day of reckoning comes, not even the loudest liars will be able to drown out the truth He unveils. Your suffering is not the end of the story. It is the opening act of a divine reversal. You will not only survive, you will rise. And not because the people who hurt you apologized, not because they came to their senses, but because God Himself lifted you, healed you, empowered you, and vindicated you in ways that no human validation ever could. Now, as we step into the heart of this truth, consider these revelations, each one a mirror to your pain and a torch of hope for your soul. God records every unspoken word like a prayer made without breath. There are moments in life when your soul feels so heavy, the words simply won't come out. You sit in silence, with a heart that screams for release, but your lips do not move. You walk through days with your thoughts tangled in sorrow and your spirit wrapped in questions too deep to explain. People see your calm face and assume you're fine, yet inside you're carrying a world of pain, confusion, and longing. You are misunderstood, not because you are unclear, but because the depth of your feelings is too vast for language. But God hears you. He doesn't require a sound to understand your soul. He doesn't wait for a well-formed sentence to acknowledge your cry. When your voice fails, your silence still speaks to him. The sigh you let out in the dark is louder in heaven than the loudest shout on earth. The pause in your breath when pain hits you unexpectedly is felt by the God who knit you together. The prayers that form only in your heart, trembling and incomplete, are carried to the throne like songs of the angels. This is the nature of divine understanding. He hears the unspoken, he sees the unseen. There is no need to impress God with eloquence. You don't have to explain yourself to him. He already knows, and not in a vague or distant sense. He knows the exact moment your heart broke, the exact word that was never said but burned inside your chest like fire. He knows the conversation you practiced in your mind but could never have. He knows the apology you deserved but never received, and how much it cost you to carry on without it. Sometimes you kept quiet not because you lacked the courage, but because speaking would have broken you. Other times you were silenced by fear of rejection, of ridicule, of being misunderstood again. Yet even when you didn't speak, God took note. He kept record, not to punish but to restore. Every word you held back out of love, every emotion you buried to protect others, every truth you swallowed to keep peace, God counted them as sacrifices, not weaknesses. This is the sacred power of silence. In your quiet suffering, God is most attentive. When no one else saw the weight you carried in silence, He did. When others judged your silence as weakness or indifference, God understood it as strength and endurance. He heard the speech behind your stillness and saw the courage it took to stay kind while your soul was in pain. And here's something deeper still. Those unspoken words, those silent cries, they don't vanish into nothing. In the spiritual realm, they echo. They become incense before God. They become a language of the Spirit that calls for divine response. They are like invisible ink on the pages of your life, waiting for the warmth of God's justice to reveal them in full. So never think your silence was wasted. Never think your unspoken words went unnoticed. They reached heaven. They were received like holy offerings because they were born from your suffering and your resilience. When you couldn't speak, your soul still worshipped. When you couldn't express your pain, your spirit still reached upward. And that was enough for God to say, I'm here. I understand. I will answer you in my time. 2. Your tears are not wasted. They are stored in God's bottle of justice. We live in a world that often dismisses tears. People are uncomfortable with emotion. They rush you past your pain, expecting you to be strong before you've even had the chance to be human. Don't cry, they say, as if tears are a weakness. Move on, they urge, as if grief has an expiry date. But there is one who does not push you away, one who does not minimize what broke you, one who kneels beside you in the silence and gathers your tears like diamonds. That one is God. The Bible tells us that God collects every tear in a bottle. This is not poetry, it's divine truth. It means not one tear falls without meaning, not one moment of grief goes unnoticed. The tears you cried when no one was watching, the tears that stained your pillow, the tears you hid in the shower so no one would ask questions, He caught them all. He treated them as sacred. He stored them as evidence, not of your weakness, but of your faith and your endurance. Tears are often born in places where words cannot go. They are the body's way of praying when the heart is too full or too broken to speak. When you weep, you are not falling apart. You are being honest. You are letting your soul speak through your eyes, and God listens. He leans in. Your tears tell Him stories even you don't have the language to tell. And make no mistake, These tears are not forgotten. In heaven, your tears are not lost in time. They are remembered. They are accounted for. They are added to the great record of your life, and in the divine courtroom, they hold power. When God moves in your favor, it will not be because you are perfect. It will be because you wept with a pure heart, because you chose not to harden yourself in your suffering, because you stayed soft, stayed loving, stayed faithful, even while you bled emotionally. There is something sacred about those who cry in silence and still get up and serve others, about those who feel shattered inside and still choose to believe that God has a plan. You may have questioned if your tears mattered, especially when nothing changed after you cried. But what if they weren't meant to change the moment instantly? What if they were watering the seeds of justice that God was planting underground? What if the tears you shed were not meant to bring you immediate relief, but were meant to become the future evidence of how much you endured and how much you trusted? Because that's exactly what they are. They are your silent testimonies. They will rise like vapor before God and return like rain upon the lives of those who thought they could hurt you without consequence. Your tears are prophetic. They speak of pain, but they also whisper of promises. And God, who cannot lie, will not let the bottle spill in vain. He will pour it back in the form of restoration, vindication, and undeniable peace. Every broken heart cries out to God louder than any voice. There is a cry that cannot be heard with ears, yet it reaches the heavens like thunder. It is the cry of a broken heart, a silent scream buried deep within, where words are no longer capable of expressing the pain. When someone you love turns cold, when trust is shattered like fragile glass, when you're left trying to make sense of why someone who knew your heart chose to break it, this is where that cry begins. You don't have to shout for God to hear you. Your heartbreak itself becomes the loudest cry in His presence. There are people walking through life with smiles painted on their faces while bleeding inside. They show up to work, answer messages, cook meals, and go through the motions, yet inside, they are living through invisible grief. The pain they carry is unspoken, but not unfelt. God, in His perfection, does not need to be told when your heart breaks. He feels it when you do. He is not a distant observer. He is a close companion, especially in suffering. Scripture tells us He is near to the brokenhearted, not just aware, but near. Your pain invites the presence of God. When you are at your lowest, when your spirit is crushed and you feel like no one can understand the depth of your sorrow, that is when His nearness becomes your healing. The world may not notice. People might say, "It wasn't that bad," or "Just get over it." But God never minimizes your suffering. He never compares your heartbreak to someone else's. He meets you right where you are, with compassion. There are seasons when your heart breaks repeatedly, from betrayal, from neglect, from words you wish you never heard and moments you wish you could forget. And every time it happens, you wonder if anyone truly sees the weight you're carrying. God does. And not only does He see it, He responds to it. Your brokenness does not repel Him, it draws Him in. The sound of your heartbreak resounds in the halls of heaven, louder than any, because it's honest, because it's real, because it's a raw expression of your humanity, and God is deeply moved by honesty. In fact, there are blessings that only come after heartbreak. There's a nearness of God you can only know when everything falls apart. It's in the silence after the storm that He whispers the loudest. It's in your emptiness that He begins to fill you. A broken heart is not a sign that you've failed. It's often the beginning of healing, of redirection, of awakening. But most of all, it's the trigger that calls God close. And know this, when someone breaks your heart intentionally, when they do it carelessly, when they watch you fall and don't even flinch, That doesn't go unnoticed by God. He is both a comforter and a judge. He heals you, but he also takes account of those who caused the hurt. Your tears, your silence, your prayers, they become testimonies in his court. And though the world may forget your pain, God remembers, and he moves with perfect justice in response to every unspoken cry of your soul. 4. Those who cause pain will face what they've planted. God ensures it. In a world driven by appearances and fleeting apologies, it's easy to believe that people can do whatever they want and escape the consequences. Someone lies about you, betrays your trust, uses your kindness, and walks away unbothered. They thrive while you suffer. They laugh while you grieve. They seem to move on with no weight of guilt, no signs of remorse. And in those moments, you might be tempted to ask, where is justice? Where is God? But justice doesn't always come wrapped in immediate consequences. It doesn't shout. It doesn't flash. It works silently, patiently, with precision. God does not sleep. He does not blink. He sees every act of harm, especially the ones done in secret, behind your back, in the shadows where no one else was watching, and he takes note. He allows time to pass, not because he's forgotten, but because his judgment ripens like fruit. It comes when it's full, undeniable, and just. The people who caused you pain planted seeds in the soil of life, and every seed produces a harvest. They may have thought they were getting away with it. They may even mock your silence and your forgiveness. But there is a law written into the fabric of creation. What you sow, you will reap. This is not superstition, it's divine principle. If someone plants cruelty, cruelty will grow. If someone plants betrayal, betrayal will revisit them. It may not come immediately, it may not come in the way they expect, but it will come, because God ensures it. Sometimes, the worst kind of harm comes from those you trusted most. People you opened your soul to, people you believed would never hurt you, and when they do, it breaks something inside you. And yet, instead of retaliating, you stayed silent. You chose peace over revenge. You gave them grace. That silence is not weakness, it is strength. It is spiritual power. And in that silence, God begins to work. You may not see it, but while you were weeping, heaven was working. While you were letting go, God was picking up every piece. And here's the truth many overlook. God doesn't just protect his children, he defends them. He may allow the wound, but he does not allow the weapon to go unaccounted for. Those who harmed you without repentance, without remorse, without restoration, they've set in motion a reckoning they cannot escape. Not because you cursed them, not because you wished them harm, but because life, under the sovereignty of God, balances itself. Pain given to the innocent always returns to the sender, multiplied. You don't need to wish for their downfall. You don't need to orchestrate their karma. That's not your job. That belongs to God, and he is never unfair. When he acts completely. When he repays, he does it righteously. And when justice arrives, it speaks not with vengeance, but with truth. The truth of what they did, the truth of what you endured, and the truth that no one, absolutely no one, escapes the consequences of the pain they caused without repentance. So if you're still hurting, still questioning, still wondering if God will do something about what they did, just wait. They will face what they've planted, not because you demanded it, but because God decreed it. God's timing may feel slow, but his justice is never late. Waiting on justice can be one of the most painful experiences of life, especially when you know, without a shadow of a doubt, that you were wronged, that someone hurt you, not by accident, but by intention. They manipulated, they lied, They discarded your heart and walked away as if none of it mattered. You stood there, shocked by the cruelty, expecting some kind of response from heaven. But days passed, then weeks, then months, and still silence. It begins to feel like God has forgotten, like your cries dissolved into the air, like maybe, just maybe, justice is a fantasy. But justice delayed is not justice denied. When God waits, he doesn't wait out of indifference. He waits because his justice is precise. It's not emotional, it's not rash. It is holy, calculated, and far-reaching. God sees not only what was done, but why it was done, how deeply it impacted you, and what's growing behind the scenes in the life of the one who inflicted the pain. Sometimes the delay isn't about forgetting. It's about gathering everything, every detail, every motive, every consequence, because when God moves, he leaves nothing unaddressed. You may wonder, why does the one who hurt me seem to prosper? But what looks like progress is often just borrowed time. A season of silence doesn't mean they're blessed. It just means their harvest hasn't arrived yet. And when it does, it will match exactly what they sowed. That's the nature of divine justice. It's mirrored. If they sowed heartbreak, they will reap it. If they sowed betrayal, betrayal will visit their doorstep. You may not be there to see it, but God never misses it. He does not operate on your calendar. He operates on eternal wisdom. And there's something else about timing. It's not just for them, it's for you. God often delays justice because he's protecting you from becoming like the one who hurt you. If he responded immediately, your heart might fill with pride or vengeance, but in the waiting, he softens your heart. He heals your wounds. He refines your spirit, so that when the justice finally comes, you won't gloat, you'll simply understand. You'll see that God was working not just to avenge you, but to evolve you. Sometimes justice doesn't even look like punishment. Sometimes it looks like exposure. The person who once had everyone fooled is suddenly revealed. Their charm wears off, their mask falls, their actions catch up with them. That's justice too. Sometimes justice comes when their peace leaves them, when they can't sleep, when their own guilt becomes louder than the voice of their pride. You might never get the apology, you might never get the closure, but what you will get is peace, knowing that God is not unjust, he is not silent, and he is not slow. So when the timing seems off, remember this: God isn't late, he's setting the stage. He's making sure everything is aligned, not just for their reckoning, but for your rising. His justice is like the sunrise. It may feel like the night is long, but when the light breaks through, no darkness can stop it, and when it arrives, you will understand why he made you wait. Because what he was preparing wasn't just justice, it was glory. You were never weak for feeling deeply. Your compassion reflects his heart. In a world that rewards detachment and mocks vulnerability, it's easy to believe that feeling deeply is a weakness. You gave your heart. You forgave more than you should have. You tried to understand people who never tried to understand you. You loved with sincerity. You listened when others needed you, even when no one was listening to you. And when they broke you, they called you too emotional, too sensitive, too soft, as if your compassion was a flaw, as if your ability to love was a liability. But let this truth settle into your soul. You were never weak for feeling deeply. In fact, your capacity to feel is a divine trait. It's not a defect. It's a reflection of the one who created you. God himself feels deeply. He grieves, he rejoices, he longs for closeness with his children. His heart breaks over injustice, over cruelty, over betrayal. If you've ever cried for someone else, hurt for someone else, or carried the burden of someone else's pain, you are walking in the very heart of God. What the world calls too much, God calls beautiful. Your tenderness, your loyalty, your tears, they are not signs of weakness, they are signs of strength, because it takes courage to love after you've been wounded. It takes bravery to trust again when your trust has been shattered. And it takes a rare kind of soul to remain kind in a world that taught you to harden up. Every time you chose empathy over bitterness, you were doing the holy work of reflecting God's compassion. The people who took advantage of your kindness saw only an opportunity. They didn't see the sacredness of your heart. They didn't understand the depth of what you were offering. They saw your softness as something to use. But God saw it as something to honor. He watched how you loved, even when you were unloved. He saw how you stayed when you could have walked away. He saw how you stayed when you could have walked away. He saw how you poured yourself out, not for recognition, but because it was in your nature to give. And know this, God rewards such hearts. Maybe not in the way the world does, but in the way that truly matters. He gives strength to the tender-hearted. He heals the wounds that others ignored. He raises up those who've been trampled by cruelty. You are not alone in your deep feelings. You are not wrong for wanting to be loved the way you love others. Your compassion is not a curse. It's a calling, a sacred echo of God's own heart beating inside you. Let them call you too much. Let them mock your sensitivity. They do not understand that it's your softness that saved you, that your tears watered the roots of your resilience, that your heart, though broken, never lost its capacity to feel. And that is your power. You didn't shut down. You didn't become like them. You stayed human. And in doing so, you remained connected to the divine, because nothing is more powerful than a heart that still chooses love, especially after being shattered. Restoration will not come through revenge, but through God's perfect plan. There's a moment in every wounded soul's journey when the desire for revenge flares up. It's not because you're a bad person. It's because pain, when left unanswered, breeds a hunger for justice. And when justice feels delayed, the human heart begins to fantasize about taking it into its own hands. You imagine what it would feel like if they suffered the way they made you suffer. You picture their downfall, not out of hatred, but because you want the universe to acknowledge that what they did to you was wrong, deeply wrong. But revenge, though it may bring temporary satisfaction, never truly heals the soul. It poisons it. It locks you into a cycle of bitterness. It may bruise those who harmed you, but it also drains you, and in the end, it leaves you hollow, because payback is never as fulfilling as peace. God knows this. That's why He never tells you to take matters into your own hands. That's why He whispers, "Vengeance is mine. I will repay." Because His justice isn't born from emotion. It isn't contaminated by rage. It is pure, it is perfect, and it is complete. When someone breaks your heart, walks away like you meant nothing, uses your love as leverage, or betrays your vulnerability, it shakes your foundation. You start to question your worth. You wonder if being good was a mistake. You think maybe being cold would have protected you. But that's a lie whispered by pain. The truth is, being loving wasn't your flaw. It was their test, and they failed it. Not you. God saw it all. He saw the moment they chose selfishness over loyalty. He saw how they turned your kindness into a game. He saw how you stayed silent to keep peace, while they continued wounding you without pause. And He did not ignore it. He was simply writing a plan, one that didn't involve destroying them, but healing you. One that didn't revolve around revenge, but redemption. Because restoration, when it comes from God, always exceeds revenge. It's not just about watching your enemies fall. It's about seeing yourself rise. It's about being made whole in the very places they tried to break you. It's about having your joy return, not as a replacement, but as a reward. It's about seeing that every ounce of pain you endured became the soil for something beautiful to grow. And that kind of restoration can never be manufactured by revenge. Revenge is reactive. Restoration is divine. There will come a day when the same people who thought they crushed you will be confused by your peace. They will see your smile and wonder why you're not bitter. They'll see your success and wonder why their absence didn't destroy you. And that, my friend, is the quiet power of God's plan. He doesn't just fix what was broken, He makes it better than it was before. He prepares a table in the presence of those who doubted you, not so you can mock them, but so they can witness what grace looks like. There's nothing louder than a life restored by God. You won't have to defend yourself. You won't have to explain what they did. You won't have to prove how deeply you were hurt. God will do that for you through how He elevates you. Your restoration will become your testimony, and your healing will become your justice. It's not weakness to walk away without revenge. It's strength. It's wisdom. It's a sign that your heart trusts something greater than itself, because only the strong can surrender their pain to God and say, "You handle it." Only the brave can choose peace over bitterness, healing over harm, and grace over payback. And here's the mystery. When you release them, when you stop chasing justice and let God take over, your restoration begins. Not because they fixed what they broke, but because God decided to bless you anyway. Your scars will remain, but they'll no longer sting. They will tell a story not of defeat, but of survival, of rising, of being held by a God who knew exactly how to take your brokenness and turn it into beauty. So, while revenge may look tempting in your darkest moments, let your soul remember this: restoration is coming. And it will be so divine, so undeniable, that revenge will seem too small in comparison. What God has planned for you is far more powerful than anything you could do to those who wronged you. The best response to betrayal is not retaliation, it's transformation. And no one transforms like God does. He doesn't just repair, He redefines. He turns the ashes of your pain into the foundation of your purpose, and that is something no revenge could ever give you. You may have walked through seasons where silence was your only companion and tears became your hidden language. You may have carried wounds so deep that even your prayers felt hollow, and through it all it may have seemed like the ones who hurt you lived untouched, free, smiling, moving on without guilt. But now you know the truth. God was never blind to your pain. He saw every unspoken word, caught every silent tear, and felt every heartbreak they left behind. He recorded what others ignored. He heard what others dismissed. And He will restore what others tried to destroy. This isn't the end of your story. It's the turning point. Not because you forced justice, but because you trusted the one who writes justice into the very fabric of time. God is not only the God of comfort, He is the God of clarity, correction, and completion. He knows who wronged you, He knows what it cost you, and He knows how to repay you in a way that brings peace to your soul and glory to His name. So don't let the silence convince you that He's not working. Don't let the delay make you doubt His plan. Your story is still unfolding, and every page, Every tear-stained chapter is leading to a divine restoration far greater than revenge. The heart they hurt is the heart God will heal. The voice they silenced is the voice God will raise. The tears you shed are the seeds of a harvest they cannot stop. Trust Him. Wait on Him. He has seen it all, and He will not let it go unanswered.